Hello, everybody. This is Helen. I teach at the Dorothy Benson Senior Services Center. And today is our last session of our 4-week hand building clay using coils. Okay, so the first one, I showed you how to make a small coil pot. And I think I also told you that the only time I do that kind of coil pot is if I want to show the coil on the outside, but I rarely do that kind of pot. I also showed you how you can use a mold, put coils on it, and then put a skin over it, okay? So the inside's gonna look like this, all right? Now, remember, it's going to have little crevices, so you may not want to use this for soup or like some kind of a sauce, all right? You can also put a skin, a thin layer of slab clay on there, and then put the decorations on the outside, okay? And you can also do it this way where you put the coils on the inside and then put the thin slab of clay, layer of clay. Also, last week we did the one where I said that you don't have to have circular coils on this method. And I used the oval plaster mold. And remember, I put the coils down on the mold and then I put a thin layer of clay. And so this is the inside of that piece, all right? So once again, it's gonna have crevices, but if I put a thick coating of glaze on it, most of those spaces should be filled up, right? Now, you do have to let this dry slowly, and because I put such a thin layer of clay on the backside, you could actually see the coil designs, textures on the outside. So this is gonna dry very slowly, all right? I also worked on it. Let me put this away. Before that, another thing you can do with coils is you can actually make a bunch of coils, put it on a damp towel, lay all the coils on a damp towel, and then you can carefully weave them, all right? So I think you can see, okay? And that's the backside, and I just put feet on it. So you can do that too with coils. All right, and then a couple of weeks ago, I did the one where I rolled out a slab and then I put coils, laid coils on top of it, and then rolled the whole thing around a cylinder, right? I never got around to, when we did that, it kind of opened up a lot of spaces between the coils. So I just shoved a bunch of clay in those very wide open spaces. I didn't put it here, okay? But you might like that effect. And on this one, I don't have a bottom yet, so I'll show you how we can put a bottom on this one. Let's see. You always want a barrier between your piece and the surface you're working on. Okay. So I rolled out a piece of slab, and this is that dark Lizella clay. Let's see if I can do it on this. Okay. Now, I need to find out where this is going to end up. So what I'll do is, I don't have any slips, so I'll just use water. I'll just wet it really generously and then and then I'll take it off and I can sort of see where it is, but I'm going to be careful you don't twist it. You just keep it at the same angle. And don't cut it yet, but what I'm going to do is score it. Where I can see that little wet mark. You can always trace around it with a needle tool if you want. Okay, it doesn't look like it's a perfect circle on the bottom. Nope. Okay, let's see if I can, it might be too late to bend this. Yeah, it's pretty dry. I think I did this 2 weeks ago. All right, now I want to score the bottom also. So I will score the bottom heavily. Now this piece is gonna be placed on top of this small slab. So I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Oops, I just moved this, didn't I? Okay, now I gotta figure out where it was. All right, that looks good, you know. All right. Because it's the weight is going to be on here, this joint's going to be pretty good. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's see. Because I have this design here, I'm either going to mess up the design, or after I mess it up, I can add a little coil here, or I can kind of bevel it. So I need a tool here. Let's see. Before I do that, I think I'll just do it this way. Okay, I'm just going to push in just a little bit. So I am kind of messing up that part, the design. And then I am going to take a knife or a needle tool and trim off and leave about 1/4 of an inch. This is going to be a pot for a plant. So, oops, I didn't cut that off. Oh, it didn't cut through, okay. I need my needle tool. Here we go. Try that again with the needle tool. It didn't go all the way down. Okay, that's better. Now don't forget, you can recycle all your clays. Even if it's dried out, you can put it in a bag and add some water, and you know, when it's the right softness, you can wedge it up and use it. Okay, I'm sort of ruining my design here, but I have two choices. Well, I have a couple of choices here. Once I smooth this out, I can add a coil to hide the mess there. If I wanted to, I can carve and make it look like the coils continue down. Okay. And the other option is I can probably cap it and bevel it a little bit. Let's see if I can do it that way instead. There's nothing wrong with adding a coil there. It adds a design element. Okay, before I do that, I need to put a coil on the inside. It's going to be hard to get my hand in there, so I'm going to use a dowel rod and just kind of merge the two pieces of clay, push down on it, support the back side so nothing pops out. And I really can't see, I'm just doing this by feel. And then I'm going to add a little soft coil there. Okay, and this will just reinforce that joint. We'll just roll this out. Okay, I just dropped it in there, and I'm just gonna have to do this by feel. Just put it in that little corner. And because I can get my hand in here, I can smooth it out. If you can't get your hand in there, use like the blunt end or a rounded end of a very big paint, like an oil painting brush or something, anything to try to smooth it out. So I can get my hand in there so I can smooth it out. Okay, and I'm doing that by feel. So I'm going to clean that up with a very squeezed out sponge here. Okay, that should be all right. I just can't see in there because the clay is so dark. All right. Now, so because I don't like that edge right there, I'm going to see if I can take this paddle and kind of bevel it down. I may still have to put a coil there. And this is just a cooking paddle, a wooden paddle that I bought at IKEA for a couple of bucks. Okay, so see, I'm kind of angling it. Okay. And sometimes I'll actually roll it on the table. All right, now this guy's not standing upright evenly. So I have to decide which way he's leaning. Okay, so my bottom looks like this. Oops, I got white clay on there. Okay, it's kind of rounded. Okay, if I can leave it like that, or I can add a coil, or I can texture it. Now I need to add, I think I'm going to add feet on this one. I did make feet ahead of time, but they kind of dried out. Okay, I think I can still use these. Let me try to cut them the same length. Oh, it's hard to cut. Okay, I think that's close enough. All right, so I've got feet here, and I've got to put it on here, but I can't flip this over because my lip is uneven, okay? And I don't want to squish that. So what I can do is I could take a large, big, long bottle, okay, and put it in there, or I do have to prepare. I think this is still not standing right. Okay, I must have gotten a squish when I did that. Oh, that's okay. So what I need to do now is prepare a little cushion for this. And this clay is a little bit hard here, but I think it's going to be okay. I could try newspapers, but I'll just use this. About, okay, less than the height of my feet. And it's going to have to, I'm just gonna cover this little cushion here. All right, now I need to score my feet. So these guys are really pretty hard and dry. Score it really deep, wet it. Because I don't have slip, I'm just gonna score these deep and try to make mud right there on the feet. So on this pot, once it goes through the first firing, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put a glaze on the outside or stain it, okay? I can also paint with underglaze and wipe off so that the underglaze gets stuck in the spaces, in between spaces. Before I do anything, I'm probably gonna smooth it out with a squeezed out sponge. Okay, right now I gotta decide, I'm gonna have to divide this in fourths. Okay, and then I'm going to wet where I'm going to score. Okay, let's try that again. And once again, I'm scoring really deeply. All right, so we're going to kind of do that wiggle method to get some suction going here. I'm not going to get that much suction because this guy, the feet are pretty dry. Oops, that's off center. Okay, once you think you got the suction on pretty good, you really need to clean this up. And you know what? I think this is going to stand okay. Yeah. I don't think I need that cushion right this second while I'm working on this, but I'm going to take some wet clay, kind of clean up those. Oops, it's super wet. Okay, maybe it needs to come back out more. I'm going to push this out a little bit. Now, I did not take my tool and try to merge the two pieces of clay. And the reason why is the feet are a little bit too dry. And also the weight of the pot is going to pretty much securely attach, keep those feet in place. And I did score it pretty deep. So I'm just cleaning up this mess here. And as this dries, I will have to come back with a squeezed out sponge and clean that up. We're gonna have to let this dry slowly because I've got these coils on here, and also there's just too much difference in dryness of the clay. All right. The feet are way too dry. So right now it's a mess, but I can continue to clean this later. And the pot itself is pretty dry, so I can hold it like this without it distorting. Okay, now that's pretty firm right there. That's going to stand pretty good, so I may not need this little cushion to support the center of the pot because it's pretty stiff, and these are actually probably putting pressure on the wall anyway, so that should be okay. Now I need to off the table because it's going to dry out on me. Okay. So I don't need this guy right now. All right, so as this dries, I can take a squeezed out sponge and basically excess sandpaper. Don't ever sand your piece with sandpaper when it's dry because you'll release a lot of silica dust that you're going to end up breathing in. That's not good for you. Okay, I'm just going to show you right here what it looks like when I do that. Okay, so I'm going to try to smooth out this place, okay? Now this takes a long time, smoothing, and you just have to keep rinsing your sponge and make sure you squeeze out your sponge is eventually going to wear out. But I kind of want to blend these guys into the background a little bit more. So they're going to kind of look like flat coils, I think. Now I'm just doing this very, very lightly, all right? Being careful not to put pressure down this way or to the side, just very lightly. And the top part is still kind of wetter than the rest, so I have to be careful here. I'm smoothing out as much as possible. Now I'm using the sponge they sell at the pottery for, for clay. Not sure what would happen if you use like a makeup sponge. I think that's too fine. The ones they sell for clay is it's a synthetic, but it's see how it has holes in it, so it has more. It acts more like sandpaper. Okay. So let's go ahead and smooth this guy out as much as possible right now. And just because you smooth it out the first time, as it slowly dries, you're probably gonna have to keep an eye on it and see what else needs to be cleaned up or smoothed out. It's not like you just smooth it out once and that's it. Requires a lot more attention than that. So this part looks like it got smashed more than the other parts. But that's okay. It's probably gonna add a little bit of more interest when things aren't all uniform. Okay, this one's a mess right here. I don't like that. I could clean that up. Let's see. It kind of does add interest, but I don't like it. So I'm gonna carve that out. I think I added a coil that was a little bit too fat for that spot. So I'm just taking away some of the excess clay. And I use this tool to carve it away. But whatever works, I probably could use a little sharper tool right there. Yeah, let me see. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to use this one so I can really get into that space and match it with the other part. Okay, so it's a little bit more deep and narrow. Let's see, where was I? Here we go. And I may have to go back and clean it up as it slowly dries. Okay, so that's a little better than that fat worm I had. If you want, you know, as it slowly dries, you can actually clean out these little seams. Okay, I can tell some of my sponge is coming apart. Okay, looks like I got something smashed here. Okay, so if you smooth this out with sponge, I think it's going to make a nicer end result. But it does look like I'm going to have to take this tool and clean up some of these spaces. And this step of cleaning up your piece is very time consuming and tedious, but it's going to make such a difference. It just finishes off your piece so much nicer than not doing this and having a mess. So I can go ahead and clean up this a little bit. Make it blend down. Okay. So let's see if you can see this. Probably not. So what I'm doing is just following this line and coming down and just feathering it out right there. So right now it looks like a mess, but as I keep using it, squeezed out sponge and cleaning it up and cleaning it up as it slowly dries, it's all going to come out looking nice. And just blend it into the bottom. Okay, so for now, that's good enough. And what we're gonna do is continue to clean it. I think that, hope this doesn't topple over. I think that one foot needs to move out more. Okay, now I do need to make a little hole in the center where we have the water can drain. So I'll just use this fettling knife. And I can always clean up this hole later, okay? I'm just gonna make a hole right now. Okay, and then we'll clean it up later when it stiffens up some more. Okay, so basically this is done for now. It's just gonna require drying it very slowly and continuing to clean it up and clean it up. Places I don't like are like right here where it's dried out. I mean, not dried out, where it's kind of disappeared. I can go back and define it some more. Okay, so let's see, where's another place? Okay, so right now I'll just carve this out. And right now it's too wet for me to clean it up. So I'll let it dry some more before I smooth it out. Yeah, this can take forever because you have all these lines and everything. Okay, so we'll just keep working on this, let it dry out. But I do have to, I can't force dry it. I have to, I'm probably gonna cover the bottom a little bit and then kind of let some air go into the top. I need to let this dry slowly, but I still need to clean these lines up. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it because you never know with, you never know what the humidity in the room is, or if you have the AC on, it might be drier than you think, or it might be hitting a drafty place. So you have to keep checking on this. You can't just cover it and come back to it like in a couple of days or something. Okay, but it does need to dry slowly. And oh, this is endless. Okay, so that one's done. Now, when do I use coils? I either make the designs with coils or I make large pots and I do use the fat coil method. So I'll show you an example of a large pot. Let me move the camera. Okay. So in order to make this tall pot, what I do is I don't make a coil from the bottom up. I'll show you, I'll put this inside of a form up to about here, depending on how tall the thing is. And then I'll start to add very fat coils, okay? So I'll just kind of show you how I begin. The problem with the coil method is that you have to let the clay stiffen up, like after so many number of coils, because otherwise the weight of all the other coils you put on top of it is going to smash it down. Okay, so what I'll do is I might use like a form, like in this case, it's a bowl. And I don't normally oil it. I just don't have luck with oil or cornstarch. So I just have this super stretchy knit. And it kind of feels like something like tights or even pantyhose myself. I just use that as the barrier so that the clay doesn't stick to the bowl. And this is like super wet clay. You want to wedge your clay. This is, once again, this is recycled. So it's got different wetness in there. And this one just happens to be very, very wet. It's almost hard to get things just right, you know? Okay, so I've wedged that into a round ball. And what I'll do is I'll put this in the middle and I'll kind of move it around, push it around until to the desired thickness, but I'll push it against the bowl. Okay, normally this bowl is kind of small. I'll have to demonstrate on a smaller bowl. I didn't get enough clay. And my clay is way too wet. So I'll just show you on a smaller bowl, okay? So you'll just have to use your imagination that this is a huge bowl. And what I'll do is I will push this in until I get it a certain thickness. And if you don't know how thick your piece is and you need to know, you can make a little round ball, put it on a needle tool, hold on to that ball, and then that'll tell you how thick your walls are, okay? So this is super, super wet clay. Normally you don't want to work with something this wet, but I'm gonna try it with this, okay? Okay, so let's just say this is a big bowl, and what I do is, let me get rid of this. You have to recycle this clay piece, and it would just, I just added too much water. Okay. So what I do is I kind of make a very fat coil, and that coil doesn't have to go all the way around. I can do it in sections if I want, okay? So I have, like, this is how thick I would do it. And then I kind of pinch it like that, okay? So as you can see, this isn't gonna go all the way around, but that's okay. And then I kind of stagger it, okay, overlap it. Then I make sure I really squeeze it really good and squish it. So you'll see I did that, and I'll push this down and it's all distorted, all right? Let me get another chunk. So I don't do the skinny coils and build a pot that way at all. It's just too tedious. All right, so let me make this. So I just use a fat coil. I don't even score it because this is wet clay. I usually work with wet clay, and then I squish it really good. Just make sure it's on there good. All right, and you know, it's going to be distorted like this, but then I will support it on the outside and push and pull on the inside and smooth it out. Okay, and the reason why I do it this way is I already get a jump start. Okay, if this was a bigger pot, I might actually be able to go even this high. And the bowl is supporting the clay that's in the bowl, so it won't collapse from the weight. And then I just, let's see, this part needs to be, you can just take a tool and smooth out the outside if you want. But you want to smush it really good. Okay, so I've gotten it this high. I can probably go this high before the weight of this part buckles this part. But I still got a head start because I've got this supported. And then you can just shape it any way you want to. So I'm just going to, all right, let's get some more. Now, if your clay is a lot drier and stiffer, and not wet and soft like this, you might have to score a bit. I think it's easier to just work with wet clay. It's almost like you're throwing on the wheel. You got this wet clay and you can shape it and form it. So once again, I'm going to stagger it a little bit, overlap it a little bit, push and smush it together real good. Okay, so on the outside, I'm just gonna smush it together real good like that. Okay, and then smooth out the inside. So if you're using little coils, this would take you hours to get it up to this height already. And now I just squeeze it real hard so that the joints, and you can just support and squish it around. Okay, so this is still the coil method, but it's a lot faster and easier for me. Everybody's going to work a little bit differently. Okay. Now I'm supporting it on the inside. And pushing and pulling really hard. Okay, so see how high up I can get it? And I probably can't get another thick coil there because this section I've kind of gotten it thin, but I can squeeze it and raise it up, even out the thickness, make it taller. I just need to support it on the outside like this and push and pull. Some of the huge, larger pots, like the kind they put duck eggs in Southeast Asia, are made with these very fat coils. They are kind of spun on a wheel that somebody kicks on the bottom because of the weight of the clay. But see how big I gotten it already? So I do need to let this stiffen up before I can add more. And what I'll do is I'll put a piece of plastic here because I need to have this much wet. Okay, so I can squish and mush. Okay, at this point, you can put it on the turntable and make sure you like the shape and all that. Okay, so this was the end of working with coils. And I hope it gives you confidence in trying out different things. Okay, so we will see you next class. Thank you. Bye.